Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I would very much like to continue on with our journey, our discussions, our discoveries, and our explorations with respect to the recent releases made by the Criterion Collection during this year of 2023. And that brings us to that title, which is actually a set, and it is a gathering of 3 films. And this set is given the spine number collectively of 587, with each of the individual films, 3 in total. Each of such 3 films also designated its own individual spine number at 588, 589, and 590 respectively. But once again, the set overall is given spine number 587. And these are films from the early 1990s, and they are from the filmmaker Krzysztof Kieślowski. And the set is Blue, White, Red, 3 Colors by Krzysztof Kieślowski. The Criterion Collection has this year in 2023 taken the occasion of re-releasing this set, which is Blue, White, Red, 3 Colors by Krzysztof Kieślowski. Please, in advance, please let me apologize for my very poor pronunciation of names in the languages. I will do my best, but where I make mistakes, and I will make many, I very much apologize in advance. I hope you can forgive me. However, with that out of the way, of course, here we have in 2023 the Criterion Collection re-releasing this set, Blue, White, Red, 3 Colors by Krzysztof Kieślowski. And I say re-release because, as some of us may know, the Criterion Collection has already released this set on its current Blu-ray physical media release. And this is the Blu-ray, the earlier Blu-ray, which was released around 2011. So the Blu-ray release is right here. This time we have what is purported to be based on new restorations, new 4K digital restorations, and we have also the application of the 4K UHD physical media format. And so here what we have is the 4K UHD plus Blu-ray combo format of this set, which again has been re-released on the occasion of this year, 2023, again, employing the new format and also the purported to be based on the new 4K digital restorations. So what I propose to do is, again, over the course of several discussion segments, let us speak about each of the films respectively and individually in this set. And also, after we've spoken about those films, those, of course, being Blue, White and Red, or Bleu, Blanc, and Rouge, respectively. So after we speak about each of these films, then let us speak about some points that I'd like to share with you with regard to my general take on the way in which these films look and sound in terms of the presentation. In particular, taking into context the restorations, the 4K restorations, and where necessary and where applicable, maybe we can rely also on our knowledge of the past releases, including this Criterion release from over 10 years ago, the earlier Blu-ray release, I mean. And also the I say earlier Blu-ray release, but I'll get into it over the course of the discussion. But this new set from 2023 has, the one that I have here on the table is the 4K UHD plus Blu-ray. So it has the 4K UHD disc and the Blu-ray disc for each of the films in this set. But I'll talk about that with a little bit more detail over the course of these discussions. But the earlier set from over 10 years ago had the Blu-ray format. And so, just going back to the discussion, say, flow, we will speak about each of the films, and then we will speak about the presentation, share our comments about that, and other production or presentation and packaging details where appropriate. And then we can talk a little bit more about other points we'd like to bring up with regard to this new release of 2023, or this re-release, I should say of these films on the occasion of this year, 2023. If I had to start the ball rolling with regard to the discussion, I would say that these films are in many ways regarded as being among the very finest of late 20th century cinema, and certainly among the most well-regarded and highly critically acclaimed films from the extraordinary artist who is Kieślowski. And each film, I think, has a way of individually and personally attaining a type of a real thorough human drama with very rich and very complex characters at their very cores. Each of these films, respectively, then operates on its own, say, dramatic dynamics, very much so. I mean, again, just to be very, very general, one can say that the general tone and feel and style of each of the films, blue, white, and red, one can say that, depending on one's viewpoint, one can say that each film is its own operated way, and again, guided by its own set of individualized and highly stylized visual and dramatic dynamics, which I think work wonders, absolutely wonders. At the same time, there is a sense of what might call the cinematically metaphysical, or the sort of transcendental, or the way in which things seem to perhaps, maybe, possibly be more connected than one might realize, and that might be interpreted in terms of a sense of fate, in terms of a sense of perception of reality, in terms of a sense of religion, in terms of a sense of philosophy of outlook and time and place, and our place in the world, and or maybe the individual subjective I. My place in the world, and I use that again as applied to each of the stories that we see, each of the characters, all the characters that we meet, because again, in the hands of Kieślowski and company, we have a very detailed and rich landscape where each person is given their own, say, sense of space and identity, or perhaps, or maybe to put it more, say, broadly, given the space to live out the way they perhaps see themselves, or the way that they are ultimately naturally are, regardless of how well they are able to see themselves or not. And that, I think, is a really important question that is embedded in each of these films, namely, do these characters know themselves, or do they think they know themselves, but perhaps they don't know themselves more than they actually do, etc., etc. Or perhaps the opposite is true. Again, depending on our interpretation of these films, that's, I think, one possible avenue of outlook. When I speak about the films, I'll try to be as detailed as possible, but also be as ambiguous as possible, again, to preserve the mystery and the delight and the grandeur of watching these films upon initial watch. Again, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who has not yet seen these films, so I will do my best to preserve the surprises where possible. But let me just say once again that the three films that are part of this trilogy, the first being Bleu, or Blue, and the second being Blanc, or White, and the third being Rouge, or Red. So we will speak about each of these films individually over the course of the next set of discussions. Let me also say that the first time I saw these films was around the time of their initial release, and they got a lot of publicity, and also they were, relatively speaking, fairly easy to access and to watch. They would be made available on, I think, readily available VHS copies to rent at local video stores, for instance. And so they would be, I think, a kind of staple of one's local Blockbuster video back in the day in the early 90s. And so I think they got a lot of great publicity and a lot of attention, both critically and also in terms of the impact that the films had, I think, on a real global scale, and also really re-announcing to the world the name of Kieślowski for all to celebrate and to aspire to in terms of exploration of cinematic art as well as philosophy, as well as the many, many questions to ponder. And indeed, there are so many questions to ponder within and amongst and throughout each of these films respectively. So there is, I think, so much wealth and so much depth and so much knowledge and so much beauty and so much mystery and so much awe, and then some, intertwined and enwrapped so, I think, so vigorously and so with a sense of sort of mellifluous, ethereal beauty that is also, I think, getting at the heart of everyday questions, or questions of the everyday. And when I say questions of the everyday, questions that I think any viewer who is watching these films, I think, can get a sense of and can understand and can relate to, because I think the questions that the films ask are dealing with questions that I think we as viewers, as human beings, watching the films, I think we can relate to in our own way, on the one hand, and yet at the same time the films have a sense of power and context and atmosphere that are very much part of the film's times and places, respectively. So I love that paradoxical balance, which is struck so brilliantly by Kieślowski and company in each of these films, while at the same time giving us a sense of answers, but also withholding answers. And that withholding of answers, I think, is for our benefit, the viewer's benefit, because it allows us the benefit in lieu of receiving the answers directly from the film. I think in lieu of that, it gives us, the viewers, the option and the benefit and the room and the scope and the great opportunity to be able to thus read into these films in a way that perhaps might inform who it is we are, or who we think we are, or how we perceive ourselves, which I think is a very powerful and I think always engaging sort of cinema experience. And so and then on top of that, I continue to be enthralled by the artistry and majesty and style. The music is also something that I'd like to speak about, not least of which because the music is also part of the great discussions as part of the supplements, which we'll also talk about over the course of these video discussions. But the music is very important to me. Again, I saw these films in the early 90s on VHS tape first, and that was along the way of my own discovery, my own sense of self-discovery, and my emerging cinema journey. I was just beginning, I think, to discover films, more and more films, and that curiosity and that eagerness to learn more really coincided with the emergence of these films, Three Colors, Trois Couleurs. So in that way, one can say that I grew up watching these films over the course of my cinema journey, watching them as a teenager, and then just continuing on, rewatching them where possible, including, of course, the occasion of receiving or purchasing the earlier Criterion release from over 10 years ago, and then now with the occasion of this new 2023 re-release, this time using the 4K restoration process and also applying in physical media context the 4K UHD format options as well. So those are, I think, those are the few comments that I can share right now, and perhaps I can continue on the comments when we go to the next video discussion, which will be a discussion on the film, which is from 1993, and we'll talk about this next, and it is the film Blue. So I look forward to seeing you at the next discussion, my dear friends. But in the meantime, once again, this is just a general introduction to these films and to this new set. We will talk more about the films directly in separate discussions going forward. We'll also bring up points about the supplements and also bring up points about the presentations and also other aspects of the packaging, etc. Again, for those who are interested. So please, won't you join me in further discussions of these films? I look forward to seeing you at the next one, my dear friends. Where we will talk about more aspects regarding blue, white, red, three colors by Krzysztof Kieślowski. So until the next one, my dear friends, thank you and cheers.